I have a very vivid memory of this. I was 11 years old and staying at my grandparents' farm for a long weekend. It was April Fool's Day, and I was excited to play some pranks on my family. Little did I know I was about to experience something truly terrifying. It started out as a normal day. I helped my grandpa with some chores around the farm, and my grandma made us a delicious lunch. After we ate, I decided to go walk in the woods behind the farm. I had always been fascinated by the forest and loved to go exploring new places. As I was walking through the woods, I noticed something strange. There was a strange smell in the air, like burnt hair mixed with sulfur. I tried to ignore it and kept walking, but the smell grew stronger and stronger. Suddenly, I heard a strange noise coming from deep in the woods. It sounded like someone was howling, but it was more like a scream. I froze in fear, wondering if I was imagining things. But then I heard it again, louder this time. I realized that it was coming from a clearing up ahead, so I cautiously approached it. As I got closer, I saw something that I'll never forget. It was a group of people wearing animal masks, dancing and chanting around a bonfire. They were holding strange objects and speaking in a language I didn't understand. I watched it in terror as they continued the bizarre ritual. At some point, they noticed me. One of the men approached me, his eyes glowing with a strange intensity. He grabbed me by my arm and pulled me towards the fire. I struggled and tried to break free, but he was too strong. I thought I was going to die. But then, something even stranger happened. The man pulled off his mask, revealing my grandpa's face. I was so shocked that I couldn't move. The other people took off their masks as well, revealing my family members. It turned out that they had planned this elaborate prank on me for April Fool's Day. I was relieved that I wasn't in danger, but I was still shaken by the experience. I couldn't believe that they would go to such lengths just to scare me. Now, as an adult, I can laugh about it, but at the time, it was the scariest experience of my life. I'll never forget that April Fool's Day on my grandparents' farm, and I'll always be a little wary of any pranks that my family tries to pull on me. You could have avoided all of this by hitting the like button. You should too. I grew up in a small town called Denton in Texas, where everyone knew everyone else's business. It was April Fool's Day. I was 16 at the time, and I was home alone, which was pretty unusual since my parents were usually home by this time. I was laying on the couch watching TV, and around 7 p.m., the power went out. It was the only house on the block that had no electricity. I wasn't scared, but I was annoyed. I got up to find some candles and matches when I heard something outside. At first, I thought it was just a neighborhood playing a prank on me. But then I heard footsteps approaching the front door of my house. My heart began to race, and I tried to tell myself that I was overreacting. I slowly made my way to the front door and looked through the peephole, but I couldn't see anything. The footsteps were still getting closer, and I could feel my pulse in my ears. Suddenly, there was a loud banging on the door, and I jumped out of my skin. I was completely alone and defenseless. I didn't know what to do, so I decided to ignore it in the hope that whoever it was would just go away. The banging continued, and then I heard a man's voice. "Let me in, I need your help, please," the voice pleaded. I hesitated for a moment, but my heart told me that I couldn't trust this person. I backed away from the door and grabbed my phone to call the police. As I was on the phone, I heard the sound of breaking glass, and then I saw a figure coming through the window. It was a man, and he was holding a knife. I was frozen with fear, but I knew that I had to run away. I ran to the back door and unlocked it, hoping to escape. The man was hot on my heels, and I could feel his breath on my neck. I ran through the backyard and into the alley, hoping that I could find someone to help me. As I ran, I could hear the man's footsteps behind me, getting closer and closer. I didn't know how much longer I could keep going, but I knew that I had to keep pushing. I saw a police car approaching and I screamed for help. The man disappeared into the darkness and the police came to my rescue. They searched the neighborhood but couldn't find him. The cops told me it was probably just a prank gone wrong, but I knew that it was more than that. I could feel it in my bones. I kept thinking about what could have happened if the police hadn't arrived in time. It wasn't until the next morning that I found out that the man had been seen in the area before, and people claimed to have seen him act suspiciously. It was April Fool's Day, and my friends and I were feeling adventurous. We decided to explore an abandoned building on the outskirts of our town. I was 15 at the time, and looking back, I can't believe we were so reckless. We hopped on our bikes and rode down the dirt road that led to the building. It was a creepy looking place, with boarded up windows and a sagging roof. But we really wanted to check it out. We parked our bikes outside and walked up to the front door. I remember feeling a sense of unease as we pushed it open and stepped inside. The air was musty and stale, and I could hear the creaking of old wood under our feet. We started exploring the building, checking out the old furniture and decorations that were left behind. It was eerie, but also kind of exciting. We joked around and tried to scare each other, but deep down, I think we were all a little spooked. And then, something happened. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but it felt like the temperature in the room dropped. The air felt thicker, and there was a strange energy in the air. Suddenly, we all felt like we needed to get out of there. We turned to leave, but that's when I realized that my bike tire was flat. I panicked as I watched my friends pedal away, leaving me behind. I was only a couple of feet away from the building, and I knew I had to run. That's when I heard it. Footsteps coming from inside the building. I looked back and saw a figure in the shadows, following me. My heart raced as I ran as fast as I could, trying to escape. But the footsteps sounded closer, and I knew I wasn't going to make it. I could feel that it was approaching me. It was only a few inches away from me. And then, everything went black. I woke up outside the building. My friends gathered around me. They told me that I had passed out, but I knew what I had experienced was something more. To this day, I believe that something followed me out of that building, something that wanted to do me harm. April Fool's Day will never be the same for me again.